So I'd like to take some time today to discuss vitamin D, what it is, how it functions in the body, and what the benefits are of consuming enough vitamin D and who may be most at risk of a deficiency and what you can do about it if you are at risk. So let's begin with this recent article that came out about vitamin D deficiency being connected to a higher mortality risk. So, previous research has demonstrated connections between mortality risk and vitamin D deficiency. This study, according to researchers, supports a causal relationship while underscoring the importance of health strategies to keep the general public at healthy vitamin D levels. So, researchers assessed data from over 300,000 participants aged 37 to 73 years. During a 14-year follow-up period, they identified 18,700 deaths basically linked to vitamin D deficiency. The U.S. National Academy of Medicine recommends vitamin D concentrations of at least 50 nmol per liter. Notably, the researchers found that participants who were severely vitamin D deficient with concentrations less than 25 had a 25% increased odds for all-cause mortality compared with those who had concentrations of at least 50. So, people who had at least the recommended 50 nmol per liter in their body were more likely to not die than those with less than 25 nmol per liter. They had a 25% increased odds for all-cause mortality. Recent estimates for the prevalence of severe deficiency range from 5% to 50%, with rates varying by geographic location and population characteristics, the researchers wrote. Therefore, our study affirms the potential for a notable effect on premature death and the continued needs for efforts to abolish vitamin D deficiency. Sutherland and colleagues also found evidence for an association between vitamin D deficiency and mortality from cancer, respiratory diseases, and cancer. I think that's a typo, not just me. So, vitamin D, according to these researchers, or having a sufficient level of vitamin D, is highly correlated with having better health outcomes. So, let's talk about vitamin D and what exactly it does in the body. It has a few very important functions, as you'll come to see. Vitamin D is known as the sunshine vitamin and is well associated with the sun because our bodies can synthesize vitamin D when our skin is exposed to direct sunlight. Vitamin D is technically better classified as a secosteroid hormone than a vitamin in terms of its use by the body. The collective name vitamin D is actually can be broken down into the compounds vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol and vitamin D2 or ergocalciferol. These compounds are converted by the liver into a hormone called calcidiol. This is then converted by the kidneys into calcitriol. So this is actually the compound that carries out the functions of vitamin D. But vitamin D is important as the precursor to this calcitriol. So, vitamin D is important in teeth and bone health. Vitamin D is converted into that calcitriol like we just discussed. So, calcitriol is used to regulate blood calcium levels and to ensure that there is enough calcium and phosphorus present to maintain healthy teeth and bones. So very important in teeth and bone health. Like this says here, the connection between calcium and bone health is well documented. But vitamin D, a lot of people don't realize that it is just as important as having enough calcium. It also plays an important role in immune system support. Vitamin D receptors are present in many cell types, including the various immune cells, including T cells, B cells, and monocytes. So having a deficiency could lead to a decreased immune response. And here at the end it says, similarly, if there's been an exciting research that has suggested that vitamin D could even be effective at reducing the severity of COVID-19 symptoms, which if you remember at the height of the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about vitamin D and how people with adequate vitamin D levels actually did much better with COVID if they did happen to catch it. Another important thing that vitamin D does could be mood regulation. It could play an active role in regulating certain neurotransmitters and help improving our moods. And I think many people can attest to this with seasonal depression. Vitamin D could be linked in with why that happens. I mean, this time of year in the fall, we turn the clocks back. We have less daylight in the evenings. We're outside not as much, and we get less vitamin D. And as a result, that could have a direct effect on our brain and our moods. And then number 4 is cancer prevention. It's not a replacement for conventional cancer treatments, but vitamin D has shown clinical potential for its anti-tumor activity. So many very important functions in the body. Now let's talk about who is most at risk for a deficiency. Now that we know what vitamin D does and how important it is, who's at risk? Vegetarians and vegans. Salmon and milk contain some of the highest amounts of vitamin D, as I'll show you in a little bit, as far as food groups goes. So if you are somebody who's cutting these foods out for whatever reason, you are subjecting yourself to less vitamin D in your diet, so you are more at risk of being deficient. People with depression, so if someone happens to be depressed, it may be from a vitamin D deficiency. Nursing mothers, so the nutrient and calorie needs for new moms are elevated compared to the general population because they're feeding 2 people, right? So one of the things that could be sacrificed there is vitamin D. They need to up their vitamin D intake, and if they're not getting enough, it's affecting not only themselves, but their babies if they are nursing. People with dark skin also at risk of a vitamin D deficiency because they have a higher concentration of melanin in their skin, which actually prevents their skin from synthesizing as much vitamin D from sunlight. And then those with illnesses or predispositions to certain illnesses are also at risk. And I'll play this video for you really quick. This lady lives in Florida, and she is in the sunshine all the time, and she's actually fair-skinned. But she actually got her levels tested, and it came back that she had a low vitamin D level, even though she's out in the sun all the time. Check it out.
Hey everybody, it's Kimberly, and I wanted to chat with you a little bit today. Every year I get my labs done, and I recently got my labs done, and I was surprised to see something. What am I surrounded with right now? I got sunshine all over the place, and I get exposed to the sun every single day. Since I've moved to Florida, you would think that I would have a great vitamin D level, but guess what? When I decided to move from Minnesota down to Florida, I thought, guess what? I'm going to be with tons of sunshine and vitamin D every day. I don't need to take my supplemental D anymore. I was doing the spray, which I absolutely love, but I stopped using it thinking I was getting enough D level, or enough D into my system. Surprisingly, I just got my vitamin D lab back in my labs. Brace yourself. My D level was 24. Between 50 and 90 is the reference range where we should be at, and mine was 24.
So yeah, that's quite eye-opening, isn't it? She's surrounded by sunlight, out in the sun all the time. So even if you aren't one of those groups that maybe is at risk of having a deficiency, maybe it's a good idea just to get your levels checked anyway. So there's information about this online. I'll link this in the video description about vitamin D tests, how to get them done, what you should look for. Highly recommended. I've never had it done myself, but the more I look into this, I am thinking about doing it and just seeing where I'm at. So this chart here shows the recommended intakes of vitamin D by age group, and I assume most of us are adults 19 years and older. So the recommended upper limit there is 100 micrograms or 4,000 international units. So let's check out food sources of vitamin D. Okay, so these food groups here, these foods have the highest concentrations of vitamin D per serving. So the protein food group, you'll notice it is all various forms of fish. So rainbow trout has the highest amount. Then we have salmon, we have tuna, herring, sardines, tilapia, and flounder. Dairy and fortified soy alternatives, we have soy milk, we have yogurt, American cheese, kefir. We We have mushrooms, orange juice, and then we have almond milk and rice milk actually have high amounts as well. But one thing you'll notice, even when with the highest concentration foods, it still, unless you eat like 5 servings of rainbow trout per day, that 645 international units is still a far cry from the upper limit of what we should have every day. Oh, and then a personal favorite, which wasn't on this list, which I knew about, is eggs. Eggs also have a very high vitamin D content as far as food goes. 41 international units per egg, so that's pretty decent if you eat eggs every day. So yeah, so even if you do consume a diet high in these foods, you still, this is one of the rare instances where I will recommend a dietary supplement. As you can see, you know, Amazon brand vitamin D3 per serving, it has 125 micrograms or 5,000 international units. This is very similar to the brand that we have at home. I would recommend this to most people. If you're not in the sunlight very often, if your levels are low, I would recommend it, just because, like I said, it's hard to get enough vitamin D in your diet. So that's pretty much all I have for today, guys. Make sure, like I said here, go get yourself tested if you suspect that you might be at risk of a vitamin D deficiency. Maybe it's just good to routinely get done anyway, with the importance that vitamin D plays in your overall health. So that's all I got for today, guys. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Have a great day.